Oh my god, it's still in my eye. Hello everybody, my name is Sam Harkin and welcome to the very first Reviewsday video, I guess. And hopefully not the last, because that would be kind of depressing. Reviewing stuff, but mostly just kind of getting into a discussion of why I specifically like it or don't like it, or just other things. I don't know, I guess when it comes to reviews, like I found that I always tend to just start off with general stuff and then I'll launch into some like 5-minute tirade. So I thought, why don't I just do a small review and then just all the tirade? Yeah, that's what this is gonna be. It's gonna be the Tuesday before all my awesome videos, which will usually be the first Tuesday of the month, but won't always. That's how calendars work. So today we are going to be talking about Golden Time, the anime, and Amnesia, but we're going to start with Golden Time, so that if you want to know, if you want to get into it, then you can find out. And there might be spoilers in the discussion, so you might not want to watch past that, and that's fine. I think I covered the bases there. I think if all else fails, it is a very good kind of indicator of what can be done with an amnesiac protagonist if you actually want to commit to it and go through with it. And even though, if we are being honest, there is just a giant love triangle in the middle of this anime, all the side characters get their own fleshed out stuff, and they get in funny situations, and they get in really dramatic, almost dying situations. They have to deal with jealousy and angst and love and all that craziness. They do have some random crap which is just like supernatural element, because all anime just tends to usually have at least one thing that's just like, what? If you would like to not be spoiled, I try not to completely spoil it, but I know some people are very much like, if you say a genre, they'll be like, nope, that's a spoiler, thank you for ruining everything. Maybe I should have like a spoiler scale. The reason that I'm even talking about Amnesia in this circumstance is because in most cases Amnesia is not necessarily used in the best way. Usually Amnesia in media is used for one of two reasons. Number one, which admittedly is probably used a bit more in video games, but I can't help but imagine there is at least one anime that uses this. And this is in medias res. The idea of in medias res is that when you have a normal story, you kind of have like the introduction of who this character is, and then all of a sudden there's some massive kind of conflict or call to action, and then the movie has action and whatever and drama from there. Whereas with Amnesia, you can be like, oh, what's this? Everybody's fighting. I guess I better pick up a gun and defend myself. Because in medias res basically just means in the middle of. Doesn't necessarily have to have amnesia attached to it, but that's a pretty good way to be just like, oh, that first part where we had the introduction and no actual action, we can just kind of push that aside because amnesia. And the second one that I tend to find used quite a bit more in anime, and I have had to deal with this with some animes that just made me want to pull my bloody hair out, is the idea of kind of like a blank slate character. This might be in a harem or something, which is just a type of anime where you have one character of one gender, like say a male, in a school or some kind of setting with a bunch of females in that circumstance, or vice versa for reverse harem. And so the idea is that all the multiple of that one gender will try and be like, date me, protagonist of the other gender. The reason that you have a blank slate character is that there are no kind of prejudices or specific experiences that you would not be able to relate to, and so the idea is, since there is almost nothing of a character there, you can be like, I can imagine myself in that circumstance. There's only one slight problem, which is that the character is boring as hell, and also the world around that character seems way more interesting than the character themselves, which is jarring as hell sometimes. Seriously, there was an anime, and I will post a link, I did a reaction to the last episode called Amnesia, where, shockingly enough, the character has amnesia. She is the most boring and aggravating and like, oh, this guy, I need to do something nice, even though one of the guys locked her in a bloody cage, and the second one dropped her off like a 3-story hospital. You don't own anything to a guy like that. And so we kind of see that amnesia in both of these circumstances is used rather kind of utilitarianly, is that a word? You know, like it's used for a specific function as opposed to as part of the character, as part of the story. It's like, it's a specific kind of tool, I guess. And that's what makes watching this anime Golden Time so much more interesting. Specifically, the character who has amnesia is the main character, is used to kind of separate the character and to kind of give a very interesting kind of drama to everything. So firstly, there is obviously the effect on the individual. The main character, Tadabunri, who ends up being revealed as the one who has amnesia. We see that he's going to university in Tokyo, and he used to live like in a town, and this is kind of his way of almost re-establishing himself. And I think that's a really powerful kind of thing, because in a way, he doesn't know anything about himself, so he's kind of, in a way, a blank slate. So we get to see, like, him moving through life and him kind of developing a personality and developing a way that he chooses to live, which is interesting, because you never see that. You usually just see someone who's been, like, alive for, like, 10 years or something, and he's already kind of like, oh, this is the life I want to live. Whereas this person, he had all these hopes and dreams, and now he has nothing. And he doesn't know anything about himself, just as we don't know anything about himself. But as you can imagine, with a character that's just a blank slate, it's hard to kind of get drama out of him. So the drama kind of comes from the other characters. Because the thing is, even though Tada might see himself as like, oh, I've only existed for like a year, like this version of myself has only existed for a year, they see him as kind of Tada Banri all the way from A to B. Even though there was this memory loss thing that just kind of happened, I guess. And the scary thing, I guess, is that we don't want to be forgotten. We don't want to be forgotten when we die, but we also don't want to be forgotten. There's almost this subconscious feeling of, I've put all this work and effort into helping this person and they don't even remember me. And they kind of feel like, oh, I must be important enough. Just think, like there's that kind of, it's kind of like that very stereotypical kind of anime moment of when someone's being mind controlled and everyone's just like, just snap out of it. But the thing is, the reality is not that clean, it's not that simple, it's not that kind of, if I can only get through to him, it's just like, nope, they're gone, they're not here. And in a way, this also kind of ties back to Tada Banri as a character, because he sees all these people that he's like, I know that person's my mum, but not because I remember all the things I did with her, it's because she's my mother and she's crying about the fact that I can't remember her. So it kind of comes back to this kind of loop of like, I feel so guilty every time I see this person that I don't know. And while it doesn't encompass the whole plot, part of the plot is the idea that he's kind of investigating his past self, which is very interesting, I guess, because the past Banri is just as foreign to us as it is to him. And so we learn, like, oh, these characters are from this part of his life. Very intricate and complex, and it ends up resulting in a love triangle, which I think, I'm not like one of those people that's like, yeah, love triangles and everything. Like, I understand that, like, young adult novels like this a lot. But I think in this case it's a little bit more complex, because the whole idea is that past Tada Banri loved this person, and present Tada Banri loves this person. So it's almost like in a way almost lines up again with the idea that this person is not the same person. Because it's like, if you split the person down the middle, this part likes this person, this part likes this person. The only issue that I have with it is the supernatural element that they bring up. And the idea of the supernatural element is, this is a ghost that represents Banri's past, which was an interesting concept, and I think it would have been great if they actually went the distance with it, if they actually kind of committed to it, and they had like a point where like maybe the ghost possesses him and maybe it doesn't, and it leads to some really crazy situations. But it just kind of stepped in and was like, oh, I'm so angsty because I'm not controlling my body anymore. And then he just left, and then nothing, and then back, and then there's a little bit at the ending which was cute, but also like, why? That's pretty much my opinion of it. I think it's just such a beautiful case study in the idea of amnesia as an actual character element. So yeah, I would very much suggest you guys watch it. I believe it is on Crunchyroll. This is the end of my first episode of Reviewsday. I'm actually going to have another one next week, because it is the first month, and not because I just can't decide on one, which is going to be on Serial. Very good podcast. I'd suggest you watch that. Listen to that. Yes. And I will see you guys tomorrow for my awesomes of April. Bye. And also, there isn't going to be a 1 second every day, because I never film those, so sorry. This is replacing it. If you like it, then too bad.